no need for it. Okay, now that that's out of the way, we can get back to the discussion about behavior. When you think about certain things that you usually don't think about, it may make sense to you intellectually, but your habits are established prior to the intellect, prior to what you call logic and reason. And so you have feelings about things, feelings and pride, like if my son was number one in his class and all that sort of thing, if he was studying irrelevant subjects as a fashion designer or an interior decorator or a lawyer, it wouldn't make any difference to me. And if he was number 10 in his class or nothing in his class, it wouldn't make very much difference. What makes the difference is whether or not you can relate and whether or not they read up on subjects that the classmates may not be interested in. I don't care, like if you're a liberated female and you walk around asking your friends what they think and they don't buy it at all, so you dump the viewpoint, I would say you have tremendous insufficiency. And a lot of people go a lot of places and they sit down and they listen to ideas and they won't make a decision. They'll turn to the person next to them and say, what do you think of that guy? And they forget it. And so a lot of people are not habituated to what you call think for themselves or evaluate the system and say, well, I don't know enough about it, I accept some of the things and some things I reject. So just remember that prior to reading books on semantics and Veblen, social phenomena, social psychology, you get habits established at home. Your brother, your father, your dad, you have all those things, and you have the social habits. You got to send a birthday card, and you do those things, and then you read all the books on semantics, and what the hell's a birthday card? Happy New Year. You don't control the New Year. If you sat up in the clouds and you arranged the weather and the sea and the climate, then I'd know. And you said, you're going to have a good New Year. I said, how's that? There's a batch of lenses back there and things that you need, they're all back there for you. I said, well, that's a promise of a better New Year. And then John says, there's a lot of Mack trucks in town. You can't know that you're going to have a Happy New Year. You might. You might build something fantastic with the lenses, so the glasses may snap and blind you for life. You can't know those things. All you can know is that under certain conditions and precautions, you can diminish the possibility of accidents. But they are with us. Those things are with us. And so our earlier habits establish our emotional set. And our emotional set is dominant over your knowledge of semantics, reason, problem solving. In school, problem solving. You see two people in an argument, and they're fighting physically. You say, would you move in and try to say, listen, you fellas, why don't you sit and reason together? Would you mind your own business? What would you do? And the person writes down, well, this is what I would do. Well, actually, when you're involved with somebody, emotionally, and somebody walks over and says something, do you listen to what the other person says objectively, or do you tend to take sides of the person you're familiar with, and the person you know? Somehow, whenever my kid got in an argument with somebody else, he always seemed to be right. That's what I mean. We have that kind of prejudice condition in ourselves. And it takes a long time to undo that. You have to have a set about people. And it's a hard set to come by. You can get along with people so long as you get along with them. And in certain areas you won't get along with them, and that's a fact. In certain areas, and some people don't want to change because they can't afford it emotionally. So everybody doesn't know what that means? They can't afford to change emotionally. If my girlfriend put her arm around me and I said, what's the matter, you insecure? And if I put my arm around her, she says, are you insecure? If you don't touch, even though you want to touch. No, if you want to touch, are you insecure? Do we put our arms around other people because they put their arms around us and say, yes, I too feel that way? Do we require this constant reassurance? And I would say one measure of concern of another person for any other person is the services they attempt to render to that other person. If you were studying botany and the guy that liked you, try to facilitate that and get you equipment that you couldn't get, and try to, if you wanted to go in the other room and paint, the person would say, well, fine. And they sit here and they read a book, but they don't bother you for doing it. That would be more important to me than putting arms around one another. It would be much more important to share in that general area. Is that locked? To me, it would be much more important to do that. But if you did that, suppose you did that to the person, suppose you were very extensional to the person, but no sweet nothings, you would lose contact with that person. Because their habits of thought, in other words, if you if a person trips and falls and you help them up, bandage their knee, and then head off. You say, oh, thank you very much. I'm sure you do the same for me. I don't need that. There's something odd about that character. And so, reading on semantics and then applying this kind of intellectual sanity may not come off right. And it may not, you may see in the behavior of other people that you're talking to kind of an alien look. You know what I mean? And it may antagonize you. Because here you are trying to provide them with some information that you feel may be relevant to their lifestyle. And they turn around and say, that sounds communist. Or whatever the hell they say. They say things like that. Why don't you go back to Russia? Here the guy dropped the package, they helped him put everything together. He said, what are you, communist? You see, I see it in that sense. They can't always put things together. And so the way they look at you when you're talking to them causes, or Freud would call, an unconscious resentment. Or what you would call, seemingly you speak to the person and it seems to bounce off their ears. They don't seem to understand. And then you plead with them. You say, I didn't mean anything harmful by that. I only attempted to assist. Because I didn't ask you. Mind your own fucking business. What are you interested in using music and all? What are you, an FBI agent? No. They don't always like to answer to other people. And so a lot of people are very private. And the reason that they are is because when you tell me that your kid brother was in a mental institution for 3 years, and I'm sorry to hear that. Is he well? When I get mad at you, I says, you notice occasionally a kid brother was in a hospital for 3 years. And I use it against you. And then your friends come, I didn't know your kid brother. How'd you find out? Fresco. Because when I get mad at you, I might say, not that I've got anything against it, but a father was criminally insane. Murdered 9 children. I notice when she puts coffee on the table, she shakes it. So the point is, people that have any kind of resentment against you will notice that your eyes bulge when somebody's talking. So they will see that. They see it. They have need to see it. And so, being rational is a tough project. You launch a batch of crap at people, John, hurl it out. Then they go, and you say, I see. But if you say, try to help the goddamn bastard, and look what the hell I get. He damages my car. I mean, that's looking for justice. So what you're supposed to do is just throw it out. Women's lib. Oh shit, I wouldn't want how, how are you, Fresco? I don't want that much liberation. Besides, women are naturally weak. So the whole idea is that they don't want the package. They don't need it. And also, if a female picks up a gun and hits a moving target continuously, one of the guys says, there's a lot of male harm. Some goddamn thing. Some goddamn thing. A female on the motorcycle in the barrel, probably a lesbian. I know it's easier for them to understand. To become liberated, they need a lot of shades of gray. And even if a person is a lesbian, so what? You know what I mean? Because everybody has a certain amount of dualistic behavior. Sometimes I see a guy that I haven't seen for a long time and I want to put my arms around him. I'm glad to see him. But I don't want to kiss his cheek because I wasn't brought up in Turkey. My father does that. He kisses a guy on both cheeks and they walk around, brothers walk around with their arms around each other in Turkey. And they weep. If a Turk hears that another guy had a little trouble, they take out their handkerchiefs and they weep. And their political leaders, when they get up and make a speech, we're losing land and territory of Turkey, and they weep, they really weep. And they weep like that. And nobody looks at them as a color. This is a pattern. Now, in fact, a lot of men that have peculiar feelings about something, sometimes are conditioned not to weep. But they weep in here, which is pretty rough. Sometimes it's better to weep. Sometimes it's better physically to weep. But it's a sign of weakness. See? And you went around screaming because your brother was run over by a Mack gun. They would remember that. See? And they don't seem to remember the fact that you were very close to the person and you couldn't handle it. You didn't have the tools for handling that situation emotionally. Remember that people are not going to sit back and say, I'd like to understand her behavior from her point of view, or his behavior from his point of view. They don't do that. Nor do they really want it, John. So whenever you yak at people, you're yakking at them in a given culture, in the Middle Ages, and all the reinforcers are not in your hands. But if you had a yacht, or something that you called all those boys together that you work with and gals and said, hey, we're all going out Sunday. I said, gosh, anybody getting out like that is going to be darn smart. And he said, what do you think? You say, well, I'm a member of the John Birch Society. He said, where can I get literature on it? He's got a yacht, he's got 9 cars, he must know something. But here you are, you know, peddling pencils on the corner and talking about the insufficiency of Congress. And they think, Jesus Christ, how come he's peddling pencils on the corner, you see? And so the idea, Joe, is that people don't want to listen. They don't have any need for it. And you or John or me, sometimes we don't symbolize anything that they want to look up to. They do that with very famous people. They say, what kind of coffee do you drink? How many cups of coffee do you drink a day? Do you ever drink tea? Do you have sleepless nights? And so normal people try to get next to famous people, and rich people, or important people, because they feel a little bit like get on, you know? And they'll get in with that crowd and get the extensionality of that system. So here you got a hell of a lot of insecure rats running around trying to make contact with rats that know where the pile of food is. And the rat says, yeah, there's the pile of food. And the guy says, gee, it's 800 feet high and I haven't had anything to eat for 3 days. And the guy says, see that fence around the food? It's private property. There's also a proximity mechanism on the fence and a security guard. But an act of human kindness should be committed once in a while. The guy gives him a sample, maybe, or half a sample. And so the idea in our culture is that the rules of the game are set so that male and female have antagonisms inherent in the culture. Does everybody disagree with that? The culture produces automatically those antagonistic feelings. And also, you can see it if you want to take the time out, children growing up. Hey, you know, what are you playing with the girls for? I'm talking about when you're 4 or 5 years old. That kind of thing. You know, he likes my sister. I didn't know why older guys want to go out with girls. You can't have any fun with a girl. You know, you throw your ball and they can't even catch it. And they won't go off the high board. No. What the hell are you want to go out with girls for? And so they are right. In their set, the way they're brought up, the values are too different. Now, if a girl climbs a tree, the other girls, you know, she's an odd one. If you have a collection of snakes when you're young, you know, your girlfriends, you know, they have a reaction. But it isn't typically female, it's typically cultural. Are there any girls here that ever collected snakes of any kind, or ever had any snakes? Any girls here that ever picked up a frog, slimy frog? Did you pick up a frog? Snake. Did you, Linda?
Yeah, but they're not slimy.
All right, right out of the pond. Have you?
Have I?
Yeah.
I have, but I wouldn't.
Are you conditioned against that kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't like snakes or frogs.
Whether it's poisonous or not poisonous. Part of your conditioning. You realize that.
Oh, very small.
Okay.
Snakes.
And you believe you can change in that area if you wanted to, if you had need to.
Yes, but I don't choose to.
You don't choose. Okay. John, that's your problem with other people. You may say things to them, and they don't choose to, meaning that the forces that act upon them force that decision. Is that right? You know, if you go out with a guy, if a girl goes out with a guy, and she likes the guy, and she wants to go to bed with him, and she puts her arm around him, starts opening his fly and reaches for him, you know, the guy doesn't feel comfortable because it doesn't fit the pattern. It's far afield of the pattern. There must be something wrong with her. See? And so, but if a guy does it, that's how men are. And so, you know how men are. Everybody knows that. So, what you're dealing with is a set of patterns. They're all established. The patterns are established. You know, if you squeeze your girlfriend's butt while she's getting into a car, then all right. But if I were in a supermarket, my girlfriend would reach for my balls, you know. I said, you know, not here. No, because I can't sit around like that. The supermarket says, all right, go ahead, that's what you have to do. Because the people in the supermarket, there's always that guy with the captain's hat and the beard. And if they see you on the radio or anything like that, it doesn't take very long, especially. And so, in the world today, if you want to make contact with people, you have to simulate certain values on the outside. I mean, you have to wear that mask. Now, I don't think people want to turn around and say, how liberated are you? And you say, you go like that and you fart. No, now, a girl that does that, especially a respectable girl, you know, from a good home, I mean, that's not liberating. That's sick. So the difference between sickness and liberation is close, you know. All right, John, there's your major problem. The major problem is that people don't choose to change because they don't see the extensionality of the system.